Yeah, I think we can just start. So, hey everyone, welcome to our speaker event with Miss Sherry Combs, hosted by AHS Robotics Team Inc. and Metal 5773. My name is Anuj Naik and I'm an outreach captain on our FTC team. And before we begin, we'd like to introduce our speaker and explain how this event will work, which Neha will start with.
So Sherry Combs is a renowned AI leader, managing director at Deloitte Consulting, and CEO, and she's an IBM Watson Global Executive who brings forth cognitive computing, cloud, mobile, and social analytics to international markets. As an inventor, she holds numerous patents and awards, including the 2016 Global Excellence Award for Neural Intelligence Platform, a Neural Chat Invention, and the IBM Plateau Invention Achievement Award. She is currently working on innovative and revolutionary AI systems for customers using neural intelligence and neural chat.
Thank you for the introduction.
Yeah, and thank you so much for coming today again, Ms. Combs.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and with that said, I think we can begin. So essentially the way this event will work is that we'll begin with a 20 to 30 minute presentation from Ms. Combs. So I think it's going to be like a verbal presentation where she's going to talk about her work and career tips. And we're just going to use the remaining time for an audience Q&A, and we also have some questions that we prepared in advance. So Ms. Combs, would you like to begin?
Sure. Or would you like to do it in another way where you guys ask the questions and then I take the questions? I'm happy to do it either way.
I guess maybe you could start off with like a quick presentation about like who you are and your background.
Yeah, let me get, okay. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of, you guys are all in high school, is that true?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so maybe I'll just think back a long time ago for me, you guys. But in high school, I honestly thought, I wanted to find the cure for cancer. So I volunteered in a hospital, and I remember a guy walked in the building with his finger in a bag, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't be in medicine. I ended up in the pharmacy, like as a candy striper, we used to call them, counting medicine, right? Mm-hmm. So then I thought I wanted to be a vet, and I saw a dog get hurt, and I was like, oh, I can't do that. So I got a lot of interest in geology. I mean, I live in Colorado. So my first school that I went to was Fort Lewis College, and I went to school in geology, and I loved geology. And I took a Fortran class, and I don't even know if you guys know what that is, formula translation. We used to have to program in 72 characters, literally with punch cards. I'm not kidding you guys. So I took this class, and I remember I got my first D of my whole life. I was in future engineer in America, bridge building, all this stuff. I mean, I was chess club, everything. And I got a D. And I was like, oh my goodness, I found something that I like that's really hard. So I changed my degree to comp sci. And so my point in telling you this is that I think you guys have to try a lot of different things to figure out what you like. And I ended up going to Colorado State University for a year of engineering. And then I went to Colorado University in Boulder, and that's where I got my computer science degree. So I was so passionate about computer science that at 20 years old, I was running Cray supercomputers. I don't know if you guys are aware of those. There was only 3 or 4 in the world at the time. I worked in climate research at the National Center for NOAA. The National Center of Atmospheric Research. And so in my 20s, I was running supercomputers, love and life, right? So I did that for a while. And then I went down to Austin, Texas, and I worked for a company which was the precursor to Hewlett Packard. And I developed a nonstop operating system. So basically think of architecture, hardware, that there's no single point of failure. So everything's triple redundant, right? So you could pull a CPU out, the backup CPU will take over. You pull another one out, the backups. There's no single point of failure or single point of success in the design. And I remember I designed that operating system. Then I went, at the time, AMD, Advanced Micro Devices, was getting big, and I helped them design the silicone factory for the K5 chip. So I went into networking. So the point of me telling all this is once you pick a career, doesn't mean you have to stick in it. Your career is very fluid. At that point, after I did networking for AMD, I started my own company. And this is where I really did something interesting. I it was in 1995, to be honest with you. I started Major Domo's Net Cafe, which, think of it, at that time, Starbucks was getting big, and business like FedEx Office, we used to call it Kinko's. So I built this Major Domo's Net Cafe that people could come to. We could talk about technology. I could do consulting out of it. It's a coffee shop. And, I did a lot of consulting. I lost $500,000 in this cafe. I'm going to tell you that. I ran it for 5 years. But what I did is I sold coffee cakes out of that cafe. So even today, I am a very successful internet pioneer with coffeecakes.com. I just put coffeecakes.com on Shopify. It's kind of my hobby, and I love it because it brings out the creative part of me. But after I lost that $500,000 in business, I said to myself, oh my gosh, I need to get a job that pays me every 2 weeks. So that's when I went out and I found my career at IBM. And I joined IBM in 1997. I became a distinguished engineer. I got multiple patents. I worked with many customers, super innovative stuff I was building. I ended up running Middle East, Africa, and Turkey for IBM and became what's called an executive partner for IBM. And I was the first person to take cognitive computing to Africa. So that was my claim to fame at IBM. But at that point, I was at that pinnacle of my career. So I always tell people I felt like an NFL football player at the time. So I joined a startup company in Silicon Valley called Genpact. And that's where Neha mentioned I got the Innovation Award. I designed the neural intelligence platform using Google Contact Center AI. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but I do a lot of digital innovation, AI and ML and contact centers. So I designed this platform that can allow you to speak. Let me shut my door, just 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
That allows you to speak naturally using conversational AI, like as a virtual assistant or digital assistant. Like if you call into a 1-800 number, my digital assistants can speak to you naturally, right? So I did that for this company. They do a lot of contact center work. But I wanted the fast pace of working with a lot of clients and innovation. So in 2017, I joined Deloitte Consulting, which is, I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's one of the largest, it's a $50 billion professional services company of consultants. And I get to work with so many, Fortune 50 companies and solve their problems using AI and ML. When I joined Deloitte, I told them I would build the conversational AI practice, which I have done. And we now have a very, very successful conversational AI practice, and we're solving amazing problems for clients. I'll give you a couple examples of those. Actually, one of my innovations I just did allowed me to win. I just won it. I get the award in January, the Stevie Award for Most Innovative Leader of the Year. So I was super proud of that. But what I invented, and I think you guys will think this is cool, I called it DOCTA, Deloitte's Omni-Channel Triage Assistant. So think of a virtual assistant, like if you're a mom and your child is like 3 years old and you're sick, and you're going to call into your healthcare provider and they're going to put you on hold for like 40 minutes when COVID hit, right? So my innovation that I build are the conversational systems, right? Natural speaking systems. So I would speak to you, I would get as much information. I could, find out where you are based on where you're calling from. I can take you out of the voice channel when you call and say, can I send you a link on your smartphone? I can ask you, what's your fever? You enter a number. So I'm doing multi-channel, transactions with you across voice and your smartphone. I can even take you to the web. All that tech at one place to try to engage you as somebody who needs a nurse. I could do nurse triage, symptom triage, help you find out what's wrong. All of that I could do in the digital synthetic voice channel while we're trying to get you to a live agent, right? Which is a nurse. So I built that, and that's what I won my innovation award on. So right now I'm running conversational AI at Deloitte, and we're just solving really cool problems for clients. And I'd love to spend some time finding out what questions you guys have, and so I don't have to talk anymore about myself.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. So you specialize in like making chatbots and like natural language processing?
Yeah, I don't like the word chatbot because
Mm,
that trivializes what I think we do. We do intelligent virtual assistants is what I refer to them, but they are you're 100% accurate. So when I'll always tell people we make it intelligent because my systems are built on using data-driven insight to drive them, right? So they're not rules-based. Maybe you guys are smart, stochastic. So they're more stochastic than they are rules-based. So yeah, so I like to build systems that are not if this, then that, like not if then rules-based systems, right? So
mm,
very much like a human, we go every which way, we interrupt, we're crazy when we talk. It's amazing we can understand each other. And so those are the type of systems I like to build, more natural.
yeah, definitely. Like with the rise of, I guess, some of this like being like used in real world with like more natural language processing, like what are your thoughts between like the dynamic between AI and humans, especially in the future as like this sort of technology becomes more prevalent?
Well, the way I think of technology is I think of, I'm an engineer at heart, so computer
Mhm,
engineer. I think of every single process being made up of what I call SOPs, standard operating procedures. So any process that we do or anything we do as a human has points of SOPs, standard operating procedures, right? So the
mhm,
way I look at innovation is I take every one of those SOPs and I say, okay, what do I need? Do I need to use my eyes? Do I need to use my brain? Do I need to speak? Do I need to use my body, robotics, right? Speak, conversational AI, my brain, it could be AI, my eyes, smart vision, OCR, right? And so I think of ways in which that process that a human does, how I can augment that with digital innovation. So that's the way I see humans and digital innovation kind of working together. When I use natural language understanding, processing, and generation, NLP, NLU, NLG, we speak a lot about the models being smart enough to be more human-like, but they're not. I've never seen one that's very, very human-like. So we've
mhm,
got a long way to go. We got a long way to go. And I call that magic. People sell a lot of magic, and I like to get as close to the magic as I can, but I see that it's smoke and mirrors and we're way off. So we've got a lot of work to do, but that's how we're going to get there. And I think smart people like you guys are going to help us get there.
mhm. That sounds really cool. So, I guess my next question we have prepared is like, how do you go about making your programs with like natural language processing? Like, for especially the audience, I know several are like interested in doing like machine learning and AI projects. So, how would one get started with that? I know you learned it in college, but like, what are the basic steps to
You
doing
guys,
that?
we didn't even have ML or AI when I went to college.
Oh, right.
We didn't. And so my point to you is just do it. Um, don't ask permission and don't say, oh, I can't do it. Just do it. And that's how you learn, is by doing. So do a hackathon like you're doing here. Volunteer to help a professor or one of your fellow students, or volunteer to help a company, and just do it. That's how you learn. No, none of this stuff that I know today can you get out of a book. I
Mhm,
mean, conversational AI is very nascent. So nobody's an expert in it, and we're all just trying to figure it out. So my advice to you is, study hard and learn how to learn, but trust your capabilities to just go out and do it. If you want to do it, I'm, I say go for it. So nobody knows what they're doing in the space. Everybody's trying to figure it out at the same time, right? So we
mhm,
need a bunch of smart people trying different things, and that collaboration helps everybody else learn. So there's so much we can learn from each other. So make sure that you're open-minded and don't think you know everything, and that you can learn from other people, because we're all learning a lot of stuff right now, and it's a very, very rapid ramp.
mhm. Yeah, I think it's really important that people do know, like, they're going to be like part of this new phase of AI that's because it is really new and it's still like being developed. So um yeah. That's pretty cool. Oh yeah, were you gonna say something?
I was, and you might think I'm crazy, but I was going to say I'm so far along in my thinking. I used to think like a scientist. I used to think, oh, here's a hypothesis, and this is what I think is going to happen, and blah, blah, blah. Now I'm like at the moment in this where I am in my career and what I'm seeing and the things we're capable of doing that we could never do before. I'm questioning what a fact is, if that makes any sense. So I'm at the point where I'm wondering, and you evolve in your thinking and it changes all the time as you practice your professional career. A fact is only what we know at that time, and it's going to change. So don't let facts limit what you think is possible, if that makes sense. Because I believe a fact is only as much as what we know at that point in time. And I believe that fact can change based on anything out there. So just because everybody's telling you something's one way, don't ever let yourself be boxed into thinking that's the only way. And test different ways, if that makes sense. So that's, I mean, I want to empower you to not just follow, but to challenge and be curious. And I think that the number one thing I look for in people is curiosity when I hire them. It's not what they know, it's what they want to know. Because if you're curious, you're going to learn, right? And you're going to add value. So that's my only advice on that. As I just wanted to say, don't let, just because people tell you it's one way doesn't mean it is. Challenge that and learn for yourself what you think.
Yeah, I think that gives all viewers and students in general like a good way of like approaching machine learning and AI and really anything new. I guess like to transition to more like what you do with AI. So you've worked on like solutions with AI in a variety of fields like healthcare, like you were mentioning earlier. So how were you able to like learn about the specific issues occurring and sort of relate that to AI and make AI like a solution to that problem? Like, did you work with any experts, or how would you say students could like approach problems like that with AI and solve it?
Well, I like to look at the business problem and use digital innovation to help solve it. So I work with a lot of linguists, conversational AI designers, data scientists, obviously developers, flow builders, script writers, trying to think of, designers, I think I said that, right? Conversational designers and pixel design, graphics designers. So I surround myself with brilliant people is what I do. And yeah, it takes a lot to build these systems. It's not just, one person, it's the whole team.
Yeah. So I guess like on the side of applications for AI, where do you, I guess like, where do you see natural language processing being more useful in the future? Like right now, you mentioned like using it for the project that you did for your award. Like, where do you think natural language processing could be applied in the future for like, I guess like more benefit for people?
Everywhere. I think of human speaking as the only interface that everybody already knows how to use. If that makes sense. So you don't have to type or tap. You can talk. I could talk about the 3 T's all the time: talking, typing, and tapping. Almost everyone, and you've got to think of ADA and people with disabilities, but almost everybody can speak, and there's going to be conversational interfaces everywhere. It's going to be pervasive. It already is. So everything you walk up to is going to have a conversational interface. You're in your car, it's conversational. When you talk to your bank, it's going to be conversational banking. When your hands are busy, it's conversational process automation. So to me, it's just now starting to take off, and the ability to understand what their intent is from what they say, not necessarily just what they're saying, but what did they mean to say? What was the meaning of what they said? That's where I think the cool research is right now, is trying to understand, like, what intent is that person trying to get at when they're saying that? And that's what's truly hard, because there's a lot of ways to say the same thing.
I see. So like, I guess more in detail about natural language processing and AI in general, like how exactly for the viewers does the system work? Like how would you train a model, give it data to work in the future? How does it really function?
Are you guys familiar with neural nets?
I
Neural
personally am, but
networking?
yeah, in
Okay.
case like if any of the viewers may not be, could you just explain that?
Okay, so in order to do conversational AI, Jeff Bezos says it's the hardest thing he's ever done. And he puts people into space. So you have to be able to hear. Okay. So in order to hear, you want more bandwidth. So that's why when they put up when we started this with Alexa and Google Home, we didn't do it over a freaking phone line that has 4 little wires that you can't hear anything and the speaker quality is terrible, right? We did it over a speaker that has 8 microphones and 8 speakers, and you can put it on a high-speed network. So you've got to be able to hear. Then if you heard it right, so acoustically, if you heard it right, then you've got to be able to take what you heard, and it's called speech to text. So STT, if you're familiar with conversational AI. So now we got to convert that from speech, from an audio sound to a text, right? Then the text is how we use our models, neural network models, typically, to try to understand what somebody said. So you heard it. Now you've taken it out of the audio file. Now it's in text. Now it's in a digital form in which we can now put it up against our ML models, right? So then when so we have what we think we heard this word, and then we test it with our neural networks to find, based on the layout of the words, and the intent, what we try to get the intent of what you're saying. We go through a series of, I'm going to just call it filtering I don't have a better word for you. If you look at how neural networks work, it's just basically each layer you get smarter. So we put it through a filter and say, okay, that person said this word. That's what we think they meant. Now you have to take what you think they mean, and you now have to take it text to speech. You have to take it and reverse it back out, and then make it audible so that you can speak with dynamically generated synthetic voice, which is really hard because you guys have heard robotic voices. So you're using concatenated sounds to create language. And you've got to be able to speak that in a way that a human can understand it. Just me talking about some of the things you have to do, every step of the way is extremely complex in that process that I just mentioned, and involves light years and light years of data and intelligence, and just to do what I just said, even if it's just a simple sentence or word that you're saying. Extremely complex.
So in terms of like data, what sort of data do you need to make like your neural network function and like be accurate when giving the output?
Well, that's why the hyperscalers are doing well, because they have more data than anyone else, right? So Google, AWS, Microsoft, IBM, I can name the hyperscalers. Yeah. Because it's all about having the data and and learning from the data. So today, with many models, ML models, you need a lot of data to have intelligence, right? So that filtering system needs to be pretty deep based on your I call it a knowledge garden. Where you put knowledge and it grows by learning. But that data lake, knowledge garden, whatever you want to call it, that the more data you have, the more you can train your system, your ML models, to be intelligent. So data right now is king. So the more data you have, the more instances of where this word, when it was spoken in this way, meant this intent. And you can confirm that and say mathematically, statistically, it's a higher probability that that's what they want to say or they mean, based on these, 10,000 other times that this was done. And that's what they meant and said. A lot of training these models is done by humans, by crowdsourcing. So we do a lot of models where we let the ML and AI kind of train it a little bit in the beginning so that we're not starting from scratch, but then the humans come in and have to really say, okay, is this accurate? So we use a lot of crowdsourcing to train a lot of our models. Our models aren't there yet to be out of the box, smart enough to do a lot of work. We have a long way to go.
So like in terms of data, when you say have like your text as data, like how would you convert that to something that a machine learning model or just the program could understand? Like, would you have to convert it to say numbers?
Yep, digital conversion, yes. And then it's just pattern matching or whatever it might be.
I see.
You're absolutely right.
That's really cool. Like the overall process of how natural like language processing works really like shows the connection between AI and like cognitive thinking. I feel like personally, it's the closest connection between AI and cognitive thinking, like humans do.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. And so I'm doing really cool work where I call it extreme personalization, where I can, if I know you before the conversation, during the conversation and after the conversation, I can continuously reinforcement learning, improve the model. So I'll give you an example. So I built a conversational digital assistant to collect money for a big company, a Fortune 10 company. Okay. So if you owe them money, you talk to my conversational assistants. If I know who you are before I speak to you, let's just say I know you're 80 years old and I know you're going to pay a bill. An 80-year-old paying a bill takes 4 minutes and 15 seconds statistically. If you're a millennial, it takes 1 minute to pay a bill. If I give you that exact same experience with my conversational assistant, you're going to hate it, both of you. So if I know you before I talk to you based on the data, where you are, who you are, and I can figure out from your phone number or from your location who you are, and I can know, hey, this is a millennial, this is somebody over 80 years old, then I can personalize my experience speaking to you. Okay. So if you're over 80 and I'm collecting money, I could speak slower. I could repeat myself. I can speak in a frequency that older people hear, because older people have hearing loss. I can do so many things to make that a better. I can use a male voice because people over 80 like a male voice. Millennials like female voices. So my synthetic voice, I can have it be male or female. I can change the persona. If I know you're from the South, I can have it have a Southern accent. If I know you're from India, I can give it an Indian accent. So then during that conversation, so I've told you how if I had data, this is all about data, you guys, because data is what makes everything intelligent. So that's before the conversation. During that conversation, if I can get data, I can sense and respond. So I can use sentiment analysis. Are you getting mad? Do I hear an ambulance? Do I hear you crying? Are you stressed out? Am I an insurance company and I'm talking to you and I'm asking you if you're smoking, and if you smoke and you're saying no, and I can tell by your voice profile, you smoke, right? There's so much you can do with acoustics during that sensing and responding during that conversation, right? So like if I'm a triage assistant and I hear an ambulance or I hear you're crying or speaking at a very elevated pitch, I'm not going to keep you in the digital channel. I'm going to get you to emergency as soon as possible to a live agent, right? So that's that middle, using data in the middle, like that's all that sentiment analysis, speech analytics, acoustic analysis that you use during the conversation. Then after the conversations, you say, okay, how did I do? Here's my KPIs. When I said these words, I didn't get the best results, blah, blah, blah. You look at the data, you see how you did against the KPIs, and then that's reinforcement learning back into the front end of that loop. So the next time you have a better conversation. So that's just one example of many of how you use data, before you talk to people, during the conversation, and after the conversation, do the reinforcement learning to inform the next conversation. So it's a continuous improvement learning loop, right?
Yeah, that's really interesting. So like the model is sort of improving itself as it's being used and it's adapting to the conversation. That really seems human-like, and that seems like honestly pretty crazy that a simple AI model could do that. Well, not simple, I'm sure it's complex, but yeah.
No, it's really not. It's very simple, quite frankly. Yes, It is. Yeah, it is very simple. Nothing I do is that complex. It sounds more complex and sexy than it really is. I'm a pretty simple thinker. So, but yeah, that personalization, you just, how'd I do? It's all just data. Oh, when I say these words, say it this way, people don't understand. So next time I'm not saying it that way. And, you just look at the data and you learn from the data. Because I think intelligence is additive. So I've often tried to get people to think, do you think you're born with intelligence? Like, do you think some people are born more intelligent than others? It's a very interesting philosophical question. So then what makes somebody intelligent? Well, to me, it's you have some foundation of learning or understanding, and you just keep piling more data on, and you make inferences, and you get smarter and smarter. So I think it's additive, very much like an AI system. The minute I start these conversational assistants, that's the dumbest it's ever going to be, because through use, it's getting smarter, just like a baby, right? So it's all additive. I learned. Now you can learn in the wrong way. We teach people things that other people go, oh my gosh, that's just dumb. So you can learn the wrong thing, which is interesting. But let's just hope we're learning good things and we're being additive and we're becoming more intelligent. And that's the game. That's what you really want to do.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I guess now we want to transition more to your current job and experience and what you're doing right now. So for you, like, what does the day-to-day life look for like a cognitive AI developer?
Never the same. And if it were, I wouldn't do it. So frequently throughout the day, I will work with up to 5 Fortune 100 companies calling me saying, I have, like this morning at 6 a.m., I was on the phone with a company in Europe, a huge bank, and they're having trouble because nobody wants to talk to their conversational assistant, because like most conversational assistants, they're built by tech people, and tech people aren't the best at conversation. Sorry. The linguists, the psychologists, the behavioral scientists, they are adept at building a conversation. So a lot of these systems, I'm sorry, my dogs are barking.
No worries.
I squeaked my chair and it made them bark. So a lot of these systems that we build, if they're built, let's say they're built by non-native English speakers and it's an English system. Well, right there, like if somebody from India builds a conversational bot, it's going to have proper English, because North American English speakers don't use proper English, right? So it's going to be very different, right? So I guess my point is that you have to think it's not all just technology. That's my point. Is, there's a finesse in the other sciences of empathy and psychology and human behavior to make these things work. It's not all just AI ML.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. So one person in the audience actually asked this to me in chat. So they asked, what was one thing you wish you knew as you became interested and involved in the field of AI?
Like I wished I knew when I started that I know now?
Yeah, I guess. Or maybe like something you wish you knew to like overcome a challenge you face, or like anything you want to like warn future AI developers of.
I do think I thought it was further along than it is, for one. So that's one thing. I thought it was gonna more of that magic, and I'm learning there's not a lot of magic yet. And then I thought that more people would know more. Does that make sense? Like, yeah.
Sort of like everyone's a beginner, right?
We're just starting. Although we've been at it forever, we have for a long time, but we don't have a clue. There's so much we don't know. So I think maybe that was really hard on me when I was starting, because I thought there were more experts who really knew it and that it was probably better than it was. So that's why I think people like you guys, we need you. The future needs you to don't think the way we do, think the way you do. And challenge who's gone before you, right? And say, does it have to be that way, or why is it that way? And so we can break out of this, because I think we need to learn at a more rapid pace. There's a lot we don't know.
It's really cool.
And I think, yeah, AI can be used for good. It could be used for bad. So, always be wary of that in the wrong hands. But there's so much good we can do with it, especially in healthcare, life sciences, and it's really powerful.
So, I guess, like, what are some projects you're looking forward to, or like, what are some new innovations in natural language processing or AI in general that you're looking forward to getting involved in and being a part of?
Google just asked me that a couple of days ago. They haven't published it yet, or I would have you guys go read it. I told them about extreme personalization, what I just told you guys about. That's something I wish we could do more of, because like when you call an IVR, every single freaking person gets the same experience. That's stupid. That's just stupid. When we can personalize that experience. So that's one thing. And then what was the second thing I said that I think? This is really techie tech. But I'm going to tell you what I said, because Google asked me and said, well, Sherry, what tech do we need right now? We've got all these bots out there that just talk one-on-one, right? So that proliferation of bots is going to require that we build some kind of orchestration layer or middleware that allows all these disparate bots to talk and understand each other, like people. So bots talking to bots. So I see the need to have startups. This is what I put in them when they asked me this, Google. It was just yesterday, I think. We need startups to think about how can you orchestrate or have middleware or some kind of service, SOA, a service-oriented architecture, so that, or a bus or something, so that these bots can talk to each other, right? It's just like humans talk to humans, bots talk to bots, bots talk to humans, humans talk to bots. It's all that, and that people aren't really thinking about what's going to happen when, you've got your car conversational system talking to your mechanic's conversational system and talking to your digital assistant who's setting some. These bots are going to talk to each other, and they're going to need to interface. So that's where I think there's a lot of innovation around that architecture of the bots and the orchestration of the bots.
Yeah, that sounds really cool and exciting. I guess that just really proves that, people should like start just getting their hands dirty with AI and just start learning it, like you said. So I think that goes for everyone in the audience and the viewers. So I think if anything, people should take away that, like, they should just get started.
We're not going to hurt anything, probably.
Yeah,
We're just going to learn, and that's learning is powerful. Try it.
Yeah,
that's my advice. And don't think, don't be hard on yourself that you don't know it all, because you're learning. Everybody's learning. Nobody knows it all. Yeah, I think that confidence will take you far, and then willingness to be curious.
Yeah, that's really powerful advice. And I think with that, we can come to an end to our session. So once again, thank you so much, Ms. Combs, for attending our event. And for everyone here, you can view Ms. Combs' work online, and you can also check out other AI resources like she was talking about, and just really like start searching up what AI is and learning about it. And in the chat, we posted some helpful links. So the first one is one of our AI workshops that we held a few days ago. So be sure to check that out. That can get you a kickstart on what Ms. Combs was talking about in terms of AI, how to get involved. And be sure to check out our website, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, everything else for the recording of this session, as well as any other resources you'd like to see. And we've also posted a feedback form there. So if you want to give us your feedback, please do.
Yeah, or feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn if you have a question.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for coming to our event, and hopefully you guys have a great day, and good luck in the hackathon.
Yeah, I'm proud of all you guys. You're doing great stuff. So it was a privilege to talk to you.
See you guys.